You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it! Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are taking a look here at something that, honestly, I don't even know how to respond to, because it seems like some level of just, YouTube advertiser-friendly guidelines. I will not swear this video. But either way, we have some interesting news articles here that have been out here for a couple of days now here that, yeah, I scroll down here and it's it's as you can imagine here. It's as you can imagine here. But it's a couple of news articles here. We have three here that I want to go over here, and just kind of the interesting quirks that could be in them here. And as you can see here, we do have a nice part 3 here to the lovely armored parts here and whatever jazz is coming for the brand new season here. So this ain't too bad here. It's actually kind of nice. Of course, we got the nice lovely train plow from last time here, so we don't need to go over that here. But as you can see here, we have this nice lovely weapon reload booster here. So this is the direct continuation of the special booster from the previous blog. The difference is the size and effectiveness of the epic rarity hints that this weapon will reload even faster with it. So as it is right now, there is currently a special and a epic version of a weapon reload booster. If I had to guess, I'm assuming this is going to be mostly directed towards things that actually do reload, like weapons like crickets, cannons, maybe the adapter, and other weapons that actually have a gradual reload. Junk bows too, that's right, the Fafnir. I also wonder if that actually includes things like drones as well, but okay, you know, let's not have. You know, you got a special rarity, you got a epic rarity here. Okay, all cool, nice and jazzy. Does seem kind of a bit weird though, because the thing is that now you're actually just doing something that engines used to do passively for free, along with giving you a bunch of speed bonuses, and now the epic weapon reloader kind of just replaces that here, which is why there was actually an update to the engines here that we actually go over, so as to actually how to replace this weapon reload booster. So that'll be kind of interesting to go over there real quickly. We also got a nice, lovely light epic wheel here, which is actually strangely good here as soon as a bit here to actually go over. So let's quickly talk about it. Earlier, some type of players asked, when will a light epic wheel appear in-game? Now it is time to introduce it! The wheel is lighter in weight than the already Bigfoot and the Hermit, but its durability is also significantly lower. Well, makes sense. But the most interesting thing is its perk. As you already know, the game has enough parts whose perks give the maximum bonuses after reaching a certain speed. It's things like the Oppressor, or Radiators, or the Chiller, or I guess maybe even the Cheetah to some degree. So the perk with New Wheel will reduce its speed requirement for activating bonuses in such parts. So I guess in that requirement there, you wouldn't need to, say, reach 80 kilometers an hour, but maybe 40 or whatever the equivalent would be. Suppose you have a Nidhogg shotgun. Its perk activates... Suppose you have the Nidhogg shotgun. Its perk... Bleh. Park. Look at that. I was wondering why I was having such a hard time reading this, but it's because it's literally not correctly spelled. Suppose you have the Nidhogg shotgun. Its perk achieves maximum efficiency at a speed of 80 kilometers an hour, and with wheels you can now achieve the same effect at a speed of, say, 50 kilometers an hour. The exact value is given as an example only, so we don't actually know the true value here. And how much the requirements will reduce depending on the amount of such wheels among all of the chassis installed on your vehicle. So you can theoretically get a perk like this even with just one wheel, but if it's a low amount of your overall wheels, you actually won't get too much use out of it. So you have to have like a full set of them to either get the full perk, or maybe just a few of them to begin with. So it's definitely going to be very interesting then, because that means, you know, light shotgun builds here on Growl cabins will actually do really well. The Nidhogg gun right there with the Chiller or Radiator perk there that actually activates at 80 kilometers an hour, and be able to get that way lower there too, will definitely help out with a lot of builds here. Even for someone like me who uses Caucus builds, even having that extra perk there is incredibly useful. Mainly because even in then, I could still actually get the Chiller instead of activating at 0 kilometers an hour, can actually now activate at 30 kilometers an hour, or the 80 kilometers perk being brought down to 80. I'm actually kind of curious how this actually applies to that one perk on the Chiller, because the thing is that its maximum effect takes effect at 0 kilometers an hour. So does that actually raise the floor at which this actually works? Say instead of it actually working at 0 kilometers an hour, and now works at 10, 20, 30 kilometers an hour. so they could actually get away with, you know, rolling around at some distant speed while actually maintaining that extra 30% efficiency. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually affects that with the light wheel and how that actually interacts with it. If that's the case, then that'll be a great perk to have. Basically, I don't want to say mandatory for all builds, but it's definitely going to be something that's going to be hella useful for everything. Not to mention, too, that the low durability thing can actually be enhanced here by an engine here real quick. So let's see what else we got here. We also have this nice lovely bumper that I talked about last time here. And they say, we actually guessed correctly, it is a structural part and a new bumper. Though it is worth saying, the ideas and assumptions about a plow with a built-in weapon look really curious. So I'm not quite sure that's actually a direct endorsement of that theory per se, but it actually would be interesting to see if that was the case. Having an integrated bumper and weapon combination there would be really sweet. Because if you don't know, a lot of people tend to reinforce their weapons with bumpers, with structural armor parts, or X, Y, or Z. So having that kind of integrated already would actually make this thing a fairly beefy part to utilize. Although I actually wonder if it would inhabit the same kind of quirk as the Goblin Shotgun. Because the Goblin Shotgun effectively is a big pokey weapon, but also has contact damage resistance and pass-through damage, so it actually can be effectively utilized as a ramming weapon too. So I wonder if that's going to be similar in that vein, but just in a different variety, and if it's going to be like a bigger, heavier, beefier version of it. So, yeah, this, it's a bit of an interesting story about this actual change here to legendary parts, in that it was actually very popular on Reddit for a hot second there, but yet I didn't really see a whole lot of YouTube videos actually discussing this thing in great detail. In fact, I don't even think I remember seeing too many about this in general. I think the I think the enthusiasm for the new season has probably gone down dramatically since the first post here, so that's probably why it hasn't been talked about. But it's still impactful nonetheless, and I still want to go over it here. So in the new season, you will still be able to open recipes for production of the new parts, regardless of whether you have purchased the Battle Pass or play without it. Okay, that's the same for all seasons, so that's alright. The main difference is that you will not be able to craft the new parts of legendary rarity only while the new season is active. You can already start to see what the big issue is here. But what else do they say here? Maybe they redeem themselves here. This means that until the new season is over, you can craft as many of the new legendary parts as you like. Well, I mean, there's still a time limit. There's still a 24-hour time limit. So at maximum, if you got to legendary parts at day 1, you would still only be able to craft 75. But that's assuming you spent like a couple $100 in this game. But when it is completed, the recipes for the production of these parts will become unavailable. Ooh. So that means after this season, you will not be able to craft any of these legendary parts, even if you got to the high enough reputation level to even get these recipes. As soon as the season's over, you're cut off. You ain't getting any more. That's pretty ballsy there, my dude. Already crafted parts can be bought or sold in the market without any problem. This will remain unchanged. Oh boy, so generous of you. We also note that the unlocked recipes for the special and epic parts will always be available even after the end of the season then. So feel free to craft more legendary parts in advance. In the future, you'll most likely be able to sell them on the in-game market and earn additional profit here. The biggest egregious thing about this thing is not even the fact that they're doing this, but the fact they're not even going to be bothered to even give us a reason as to why they do this here. Because probably the reason why they're actually doing this here is probably not going to be one that's going to go over well with the community here. Now you may be asking, well, what reason could they have for this? Well, just think about it. Think about it as a business. What would a business do that would enhance their profit margins, their bottom dollar? Well, in this case, by locking the legendaries behind a time gate exclusive, and that if you cannot craft it during this event, if you cannot obtain it during this event, you will likely not be able to obtain this at all. Especially if you're someone that's economically inclined, in the sense that after this event ends, the legendary part will likely cost way more. I mean, think about it. Take a look at something like the cohort cabin, which is still craftable to this day for someone who actually participated in the season. The cohort itself, the average legendary costs around, 2,000 to 3,000 coins on the PC marketplace, and the cohort is still up there at near the higher end of that. Not to mention that you still can't obtain these crafting recipes post facto in any regard too. So the maximum amount of people who actually have this recipe is capped basically at whoever plays this event and whoever gets to a high level here. So people who just recently joined the game after this event, not only will they not be able to even get this crafting recipe The people who have already participated in it won't be able to craft it. So in general, the price of this is going to skyrocket here, heavily incentivizing people to purchase the Battle Pass. Because if you purchase the Battle Pass, well, congratulations, not only do you get the part for free, which can be a 2,000, 3,000 coin value there, but it is also fused too. So that because it is fused, you actually get an item that is better than what you could purchase on the auction house or the marketplace, but is only for $10 too. That's the whole reason why they're probably doing this. It's the whole reason to push the Battle Pass even more so. They know that if they do this, if they make the items more limited, if they reduce the supply of it, it further encourages more and more people to actually purchase the Battle Pass in the hopes to obtain this item, to obtain the privilege to craft this, and then to actually dump out a bunch of these materials and a bunch of these resources prior to the event ending. Because they know, and as this post has pointed out, you can earn additional profit due to the scarcity of this item after the event has concluded. And I mean, it's like they're explicitly telling us, hey, we're doing this to limit the supply, to increase the demand for these items, and to increase the demand for our Season Pass. Not to mention, too, there are other additional services there, like level enhancements, or the Deluxe Edition, or whatever the truck they're actually going to give out this time. So the fact that they're doing this is just a pure blatant attempt to increase their profit margins when it comes to this season here, which is not necessarily something they wanted to do here. This is something that is very anti-consumer here in the Nth Degree. I've already complained about this, and many of you probably already know if you've watched my previous video, where I complained about the issue of seasons, and that as time goes on, more and more of the content in this game will become time-gated, and eventually will lead to a situation is that as a new player comes into the season, they will not have access to the Founders, they will not have access to the Syndicate, they will not have access to the Doomsday Car event parts, they will not have access to the amusement park, and now they're not going to have access to whatever the duck this is. I mean, if you take a look through the technology tree right now, there's probably, what, 2 or 3 dozen parts right now that a new player would never have access to? Not to mention all of the armor parts that are now locked behind badge requirements here. So if you wanted to even get the armor parts that everyone else who participated in the season already has, well, congratulations. You got to spend thousands upon thousands in coins. At least in coin equivalents, since in badges, so you got to make, 2 or 3 steps of, transference there. But even in that case, you've already seen that you're going to end up losing a shiitake ton of coins here. You're going to lose a shiitake ton of opportunity here, to the point where it's just going to feel detrimental to the new player experience. A new player will log into this game and be like, wow, I missed a lot of stuff already, haven't I? And that's not a good first impression, good first experience to someone to have when you log on to this game. But alright, I've already ranted on too long about this. Let's go to the other changes here listed here. Wow, look at that! New unique features of certain engines and new legendary parts production. Because, as you can imagine here, they had to roll back that legendary part thing there. So, we'll take a look at that real quickly. But the engines, so a few of the engines here have had their perks changed here. And it's only 3 of them so far, but who knows as to what the other ones will do later. So currently, the Hot Rod here, its new perk of this engine will make your armored vehicle wheels as mobile as possible. As long as the engine is not destroyed, the reverse speed of your vehicle will be 60% of its normal speed. As it currently stands, I believe it's like, what, 30, 20% of its normal speed? So if you try to reverse, say, in the Bigfoot cabin, instead of being able to go like 120 kilometers an hour, whatever your max speed is, you'd only be able to go like 30 or 40. However, with this, being able to go to 60%, congratulations, it's going to be way, way, way higher now. So for a lot of people, it's not really going to be that necessarily that impactful to gameplay, but since the Hot Rod is a free engine anyway, sure, cool, why not? So next year we have the Colossus here. The updated Colossus will definitely appeal to fans of the more durable and reliable cars. Its new perk will increase the durability of all chassis on the armored vehicle by 20%. Now chassis, these are just movement parts. They're like the legs, hovers, wheels, tracks, anything that makes you move. This essentially will increase its durability there. So, be a bit interesting there. Definitely will appeal to a lot of people using either track builds, in which tracks become their main source of armor. So having an extra 20% on that will be amazing. Aim for a hover that only has like 150 durability. Being able to take an extra 20% on there will definitely help a lot more. Then you can take a little bit more machine gun fire before your thing just falls right off. So definitely very interesting there. Although the fact that both of these things had the reload perk completely removed here may not necessarily be the most appealing to people who relied heavily on that reload perk to actually do some damage. Next here we got the Oppressor here. The mechanics of this new perk for the engine will remain the same, it'll depend on your speed, but its effect will definitely appeal to all rotary weapon enthusiasts. At a speed of 80 kilometers an hour, the speed of weapon rotation will be increased by 100% there. So that'll definitely be very, very interesting there. It's definitely going to be a very niche weapon though, because not a lot of people actually need the extra weapon turning speed. As someone who uses Colossus a whole bunch here, this actually might appeal to me to a great deal, because when it comes to any sort of brawling situation there, the fact that Colossus have their instantaneous turn speed reduced to essentially nothing, it's definitely going to help out a lot, because it's slow to turn anything like that. Or if you use something like the Equalizers or the Arbiter builds, these can definitely be very helpful, or maybe even someone who uses something like the autocannon perk, like the Jewel or Whirl. But again, look at that. Here with the legendary parts, how have they recounted the horrible decision? Previously, we announced that new legendary parts for the season will only be available for production while the season is active. But this does not mean that the recipes for the production of these parts will be lost forever, and access to them will never be opened again. Okay, so how does this actually meet here? Will they actually be able to earn these recipes later on? Or that we'll be able to craft these later on? We plan to return access to the production of these parts as in-game events here. This can be implemented, for example, through rewards participating in an event. One thing is certain, the future will be able to get access to the production after the season is ended. The main issue with this statement is that they're giving absolutely zero timetables for this, meaning that there's either A, zero plans to actually do this, or B, that they're trying to actually implement this in a way that is completely not going to be effective in the slightest. The thing is, the only way this can be remedied is if somehow the supply or the availability of crafting this is always going to make sure that the supply can actually meet demand, and that there won't be a huge, egregious spike in price. Especially if this thing ever becomes, you know, any legendary parts of the season actually become very meta. Like that legendary autocannon. If that thing becomes meta, and it becomes extremely expensive for a lot of people to get there, then I could see that being a very, 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 very distasteful little feature there. So again, they technically did recant their decision on legendary parts here, but not really, because the thing is, effectively, it is still going to be heavily, heavily, heavily limited in pretty much all regards here. I mean, they pretty much said the same thing when it came to armored parts for the seasons, only to then introduce them in a badge system that makes them cost thousands of coins, effectively, to get a full set of armor from one single season, let alone multiple seasons. Again, not to mention too, wasting development time on this just seems completely pointless too. Use this extra time you are farting around with this legendary part limiting system here and integrating it into future events. Instead, why don't you just sit here, make new cosmetic parts, and sell them along with the pass, or make a deluxe edition with brand new cosmetic and CKs, or enhance the Twitch experience that you're going to have for this new event, assuming that you even have one at this point in time. But I don't know, how do you guys feel about this legendary part system? I find it to be quite a lot of hoopla here, but that's just my opinion here. I know you all disagree with me vehemently about random crap all the time, so feel free to leave those comments down below. And I guess finally here, we also have a pretty interesting gift, they say here. Now, if you don't know here, currently Crossout has this little promotional event going on here, where if you purchase anything above $30 USD, you'll actually be able to get this nice special crate here, full of a couple of cosmetic items here. As you can see, we got belts, you know, ammo racks here, paints, a little banner, and a portrait pack here. But the thing is that, according to people on Reddit, apparently all this stuff was available as mid-year Mayhem event rewards. So the fact is that it became more or less a item to be sold with a pack is a bit of an interesting thing. Not to mention too, that they specifically timed the sale to coincide with zero sales going on with packs right now. I mean, for one, this kind of reduces the value of these decorative items that people thought were originally going to be time-gated and exclusive to them, but now actually turn out to not be that in the slightest. In fact, it can become just commonly bought items later on. Not to mention too, this is not really necessarily the way that I wanted them to actually increase their cosmetic sales. Of course, I want them to go more of the route of selling cosmetic items as their sort of like basis for profit, as opposed to making all these weird esoteric weapons and movement parts and very expensive packs. I wanted them to move more to a system of cosmetics and selling directly cosmetics as a way to earn income. As it currently stands, the only way they even have that system implemented is with the Woody pack and the couple of CKs that look just awful. I understand their incentive here is to actually make a lot of money here, and I understand they may be going through hard times here in terms of staffing and, you know, tight budgets and whatnot. But at that exact same time here, there is no reason for you to resort to such scummy tactics when other tactics are readily available here and have been shown to produce high profit margins for a lot of other successful companies who actually do them properly. I mean, League of Legends, Overwatch, I mean, any thousand of mobile games here that have 1 million plus cosmetic items that you can sell and earn money off of. Easily just do that. Or if you're having a hard time even justifying this, by all means, feel free to institute a program in which anyone can submit a design, a 3D CAD model, a decor item, or whatever. They submit that model to you, and in exchange, you give them a portion of profits. You can even do it that way if you wanted to crowdsource decor items or other cosmetics to sell on your marketplace, similar to what the Steam Workshop does, or Community Marketplace, or whatever the devil it's called. So they could easily do that too if they wanted to. Of course, you have to put an infrastructure and time to develop that and all that jazz, and it might be a bit expensive, but that is a route to go down. They don't have to constantly go down this route of kind of constantly penny pinching and disincentivizing and harming the player base. But I don't know. This is just a small little pack here. It's not the worst egregious thing to happen here because, again, it's nothing that's actually going to be mandatory for any builds. It's not weapons, it's not attract, it's not CKs, anything like that. It's just simple decor items that you can't purchase. Let me know what you guys think about these 3 news events down below. Was it yay, nay, a little bit of both? Who knows? But on that, guys, I think we'll call it good here. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Follow the platform is your favorite. Subscribe and like on this brand new video here. And not to mention, you can feel free to join the YouTube membership program here. It starts for $1. It comes right down below. Click the little nice little button there, become a member. Starts a duck. And look at that. You get yourself 3 little badges there and emotes too. Wow. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.